What if I told you that buying a home right now might be the worst financial decision that you ever make? Because in 2025, that dream of home ownership could cost you hundreds of thousands and still leave you behind the people who never bought it all. If you buy at the wrong time, with the wrong down payment, or in the wrong market, you could end up trapped, underwater, over-leveraged, and stuck watching your money underperform what it could have done elsewhere. In this video, we're challenging what we've all been taught, that buying a home equals success. We'll run the real numbers using a 3.5% down payment, the kind that most first-time homebuyers use through an FHA loan. We'll break down the hidden costs, the tax consequences, and the opportunity cost of your money so that you can finally see the entire picture. For ages, we've been told buying a home is the smartest thing that you can do. Renting is throwing away money. But in 2025, that story is starting to fall apart. According to Bankrate, in nearly every major city across the US, renting is now cheaper than buying, sometimes by 30 to 50%. And in some markets, the average mortgage payment is over $1,000 more than the cost to rent that same property. And it's not just because of high mortgage rates, it's everything else that comes with owning a home. See, owning a home isn't just a payment. It's a long list of hidden recurring costs that most people never budget for. According to Adam's 2024 analysis, the average annual property tax bill for a single-family home in the US has now hit $4,172 a year, up 2.7% from 2023. And those numbers rise automatically as your home value climbs. And if you live in a community with an HOA, there's another $291 a month on average, or roughly $3,500 a year, just to maintain shared landscaping, amenities, and neighborhood rules. And it doesn't stop there. Fannie Mae recommends homeowners budget 1 to 4% of their home's value every single year for maintenance and repairs. So that means if your home is worth $400,000, you should expect to spend between $4,000 and $16,000 annually just to keep it livable. Think about that for a minute. Before you even start paying down principal, you're already spending tens of thousands of dollars a year in taxes, fees, and upkeep. And that's assuming that nothing major goes wrong. So when people say renting is throwing away money, what they're really missing is that owning also throws away money, just in less obvious ways. Property taxes, insurance, repairs, interest, it all adds up. And when you compare it to renting in today's market, for a lot of people, renting is not the loss. Rushing to buy is. So let's talk about the numbers, because this is where the myth kind of completely collapses. Let's just say that you're looking at a $400,000 home. If you're a first-time buyer with an FHA loan, you could put 3.5% down, which comes out to about $14,000. Your monthly payment after factoring in the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, the HOA fees, and basic maintenance will likely be around $2,800 to $3,000 a month. Now that same home might rent for $2,200 to $2,400 depending on where you live. That's a difference of roughly $600 every single month. And that $600 isn't going to equity. It's going to interest, taxes, and expenses. Over 10 years, that is $72,000 that you just burned on the cost of ownership alone. But it gets worse. That $14,000 down payment that you just tied up in the house, if instead you had invested it into the S&P 500, which has historically averaged around 10% annual returns over time, that same $14,000 could grow to over $36,000 in just 10 years. And that's being a bit conservative, based on a modest 10% average. Now let's just take it one step further. If you rented instead and you invested that $600 that you're saving each month into something like the S&P 500, earning an average of 10% annual return, that single choice could grow to over $150,000 in just 10 years, all from money that you would have spent on a home and a mortgage. Meanwhile, your $400,000 home is appreciating at about a 4% a year, which might be worth about $592,000 after those same 10 years. But when you sell, you're gonna owe around 6% in agent commissions, which is $35,000 gone immediately. Then you gotta subtract your closing costs, the $40,000 to $80,000 that you spent on maintaining the home, your taxes, your insurance, and your interest. So that massive gain that you thought you made, well, it starts shrinking really, really fast, maybe down to a net profit of $60,000 to $70,000. Now compare that to the renter who invested the difference, who's now sitting on well over $150,000 in liquid assets that they could offload at any time, and it's not even close. And remember, that renter still has freedom. They can move for better opportunities, reinvest, adjust strategy. The homeowner, they're locked in. They're dependent on one market, one roof over their head. They're not nimble in any way, shape, or form. And in today's world, that is not necessarily financial security. That is financial fragility. By now, you already know how expensive owning a home can be. But what most people don't see are the financial traps built into the system itself. Because the housing market doesn't just drain your wallet, it trains your brain. Even after years of paying interest, taxes, insurance, and repairs, people convince themselves that they're winning, thanks to one phrase that everybody loves to throw around: at least I got the tax write-off. But here's the truth, most people actually don't. According to the IRS, the majority of homeowners take the standard deduction, meaning they get zero tax benefit from owning a home. The mortgage interest deduction that people are referring to only helps a very small group of high earners with large loans, and even then, it's capped on what you can actually deduct. Same with property tax deductions. It's limited by SALT caps that erase most of the benefit. So while you think you're saving money every April, what's really happening is simple. You're paying the bank first, the IRS second, and yourself last. And even when you finally sell your home, that so-called nest egg, the government still takes a bite. If you've owned and lived in the property for at least 2 of the last 5 years, you can exclude $250,000 in profit as a single filer or $500,000 if you're married. But anything beyond that, you're going to owe capital gains tax on the rest. So let's be clear. You spend years paying interest to a bank, taxes to the government, and maintenance to keep the property afloat, and when you finally make money, you still have to share it with Uncle Sam. So that's not really financial freedom. That's long-term debt disguised as success. And that is exactly why so many first-time buyers in their 20s and 30s get stuck. Because they're not just buying a home. They're buying into a system that looks like an asset, but behaves like a debt trap. And here's how the trap works. When you make your first mortgage payment, you probably think, I'm building equity. But you're not. The bank is, because of how mortgages are structured. Through amortization, the banks take its profit first. So in the early years, most of what you pay goes towards interest, not principal. And according to American Financing, after your first year of payments, only 31% of your money actually reduces your loan balance. And after 10 years, that number is just 45%. It's not until year 20 that roughly 2/3 of your payment finally starts going towards the house itself. But here's where it gets even worse. That money that you're paying in interest, the bank doesn't just sit on it. According to Bankrate, banks use customer deposits and the money that they earn from interest to lend, invest, and profit all over again. They turn your payments into their capital, funding new credit cards, new business loans, and even mortgages for other people. So every time you make a mortgage payment, you're not just paying interest, you're fueling a system that multiplies your money without you in it. Thanks to the money multiplier formula, for every dollar a bank receives, it can lend out nearly 10 more dollars. That means the dollar that you pay towards interest doesn't just make them profit one time, it gives them the ability to create 9 new dollars of debt, earning even more profit from somebody else's loan. So it's ultimately a cycle, and it's how the financial system keeps winning. They get paid first, they get paid the most, and they get to make more from your money than you ever will from your property. So when somebody tells you you're investing in your future, remember that you're really investing in the bank's future. So let's just flip this whole equation. If banks are winning with your money, what would happen if you used it the way that they did? Here's the part that nobody wants to talk about. That $400,000 house that you think you're buying, you're not. Because with today's interest rates on a 30-year mortgage with 3.5% down, that same home will actually cost you about $866,000 over the life of the loan. That means that you'll spend more than double the home's original price, and most of it will go straight to the bank. So let that sink in. You're not buying a $400,000 house. You're buying that house and you're paying another $466,000 in interest just for the privilege of owning it. Here's the opportunity cost that nobody's talking about. Every dollar that you tie up in a house is a dollar that stops working for you, while that same dollar invested properly could be compounding for you every single day. And that is the secret that banks understand. They use your money to multiply their wealth. And the question is, why aren't you doing the same? So think about it for a second. You're locking away $500,000 over 3 decades, money that could have been building wealth, earning returns, creating freedom, and instead it's building the bank's empire, one payment at a time. And that is why understanding the total cost of ownership matters more than the actual purchase price. Because the number on the listing is not the real cost. The real cost is hidden in the fine print, and it's the reason that banks win every single time. Because the truth is, sometimes the smartest financial move is just waiting. Not forever, just until the numbers actually make sense for you and your lifestyle. Now, before you swear off homeownership forever, let's just get one thing straight. Buying a house isn't always a bad move. It's just a bad move when you do it too soon or for the wrong reasons. There are times when buying absolutely makes sense, but only if the math and your life kind of line up. Now let me show you what that actually looks like. Number 1, you're planning to stay put for at least 10 to 15 years. That's how long it usually takes for appreciation and principal paydown to outweigh the cost of ownership. If you're planning to move in 5 years or less, renting will almost always win. 2, your monthly payment is equal to or less than rent. If your all-in housing costs, mortgage, taxes, insurance, and HOA, and maintenance matches or beats local rents, then that's when ownership starts to make a little bit more sense. But if it's costing you $600 or $1,000 more each month just to own, then you're not buying freedom, you're buying stress. 3, you're buying below your means, not at the top of your approval. Most people make the mistake of asking, what can I get approved for? Instead of asking, what can I comfortably afford? See, banks approve you based on your debt to income ratio, not your peace of mind. 4, you have at least 6 to 12 months of cash reserves. Because the first big repair, job change, or emergency shouldn't put you one payment away from panic. If you're scraping into your savings just to get a home, you're probably not ready to buy a home. And number 5, you're buying for stability, not speculation. If your main reason for buying is prices are going up, then that's not investing, that's probably gambling. See, real wealth in real estate comes from long-term ownership and sound financial structure, not FOMO. And I'll be honest, even I wrestle with this. I just bought a house myself, and some days I think I made a great decision, but most days I wonder if I should have just kept renting. Because my mortgage payment is double what my rent used to be. My drive time went up by 35 minutes each way to the office. And the house is beautiful, but it's empty. It still needs nearly $200,000 in upgrades just to make it feel like home. Meanwhile, the apartment I used to live in had an Olympic-sized pool, a sauna, a cold plunge, a full gym, everything I actually used and enjoyed for half the cost. So when I tell you to think twice before you buy, I'm not talking down to you. I'm speaking from experience. Because even when the numbers make sense on paper, the lifestyle trade-off might not. And here's the key. When all 5 boxes are checked and the lifestyle trade-off feels right, then buying can absolutely win long-term. But if even one of them is missing, it's usually a sign that you're forcing a move that the math or your life just isn't ready for yet. So after everything we've covered, how do you actually decide what to do right now? Buy or wait? Well, it really comes down to 4 questions. Question number 1, can you comfortably afford it without sacrificing freedom? If you have to stretch, drain your savings, or depend on perfect conditions just to make it work, you're probably not ready. Question 2, if the market dropped 10% tomorrow, would you still be okay? Now, if that thought alone gives you anxiety, you're not buying a home, you're buying stress. Question 3, what is your 10-year plan? Do you want flexibility, or are you building roots? Because the truth is, most people in their 20s and 30s, they don't stay in one place for that long. So locking into a 30-year mortgage before your lifestyle is stable can limit more than it'll liberate. And question 4, are you doing it for logic or for validation? A lot of people buy because they think it'll make them look successful. But buying a home to feel grown up is one of the most expensive ways to prove a point. If you can't confidently answer yes to all 4, sit tight. Renting doesn't mean that you're behind. It means that you're being strategic. Because here's the truth. The goal isn't to own a property, it's to own peace of mind. And sometimes that means saying no to what everybody else is saying yes to. So if you're in your 20s and 30s and you're wondering what to do, run your numbers, calculate your costs, compare the lifestyle, not just the loan. Because the person who wins in this market isn't the one who buys first. It's the one who buys smart. And even if that means waiting another year or 2, watching your cash grow and investing the difference, that is not losing. That is leverage. So don't rush to own something that ends up owning you. Wait until you can buy the right home at the right time for the right reasons. And when you do, I promise you it'll feel different. It'll feel earned and it'll feel right. So I'm Austin Zaback, and I hope that this opened your eyes and helped you in some way, shape, or form. And if it did, it would mean the world if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Comment down below. Are you renting? Are you buying? And how come? I'd love to know. And I'll look forward to seeing you in a future video.